Can Elmo smell your genitals?
Winter is coming and Black Friday is upon us. Yes, the shopping event of the year leading up to the holiday season, where greed influences the masses to grab the latest and greatest bargains. And South Park takes this to a whole new level with their Black Friday trilogy, which I felt was worth revisiting for the purposes of this video. Yes, a festive bloodbath, an incestuous affair, and perverted Elmo dolls. All of which culminates in a console war with a greater ending than Game of Thrones.
They are calling it Black Friday.
I feel as though the trilogy episodes offer more creative freedom, there's more opportunity to expand on the material within each part which feels less restrictive. If you're familiar with the creative process behind the scenes of South Park, you'll know that each episode is completed in less than a week. And although some further planning may go into these 3-part specials, I'd arguably say it takes the creators out of their comfort zone to try something new, and we've seen what the show is capable of with Imagination Land and the superhero trilogy in Season 14, and this time as part of Season 17, we have the Black Friday trilogy, which is a memorable piece in its own right.
Winter is coming.
Using Game of Thrones as a framing device, I really like how this parody goes beyond simply paying homage to the popular HBO series. Across all 3 of these episodes, we have a well-written comedic assault on the hysteria caused by a capitalist-driven incentive to simply buy expensive products at huge discounts. And tying this into the console war between the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 was an incredible idea in my opinion. Over the course of the series, we've seen various games consoles featured throughout, but this time it's not specifically about the consoles but how marketing will drive the will of the people. And out of interest, which side were you on, Xbox or PlayStation? Let me know in the comments. In part 1, which is appropriately titled Black Friday, the console war is established pretty early on, where the children of South Park Elementary are struggling to agree on which games console they should all get, so they can play online together, and it's also great to see them returning to the fantasy genre, similar to the Lord of the Rings parody from Season 6.
Butters, what the hell are you doing? We're playing Lord of the Rings.
The town shopping centre prepares for the Black Friday onslaught, and hilariously, Randy Marsh has taken a part-time security job with plans to abuse his position and take advantage of the 80% off discount for the first 30 shoppers.
And I'm a sneaky little bee. Buzz buzz.
In the audio commentaries for these episodes, show creators Trey Parker and Matt Stone discuss their love-hate relationship with Game of Thrones, and a lot of the humour in these 3 episodes pokes fun at the creator George R.R. Martin and the show, and how he's essentially overpromising and under-delivering.
They keep promising dragons, but all I get are more floppy wieners in my face.
Butters is a standout character in these 3 episodes where he's written to be a new fan of the show, and I like how he represents the frustrations Trey and Matt discuss in detail. There's also a lot of discussion about the excessive male nudity in Game of Thrones and how the confusion over this only seems to anger Butters. For those familiar, I think we can all agree one of the funniest ongoing gags throughout the trilogy is the Garden of Betrayal, a frequent location where Cartman is viewed as a figure of bad influence, where he takes people through this garden in reference to Game of Thrones, luring them into a false sense of security where he's simply using other people to get what he wants, of course being an Xbox, but ironically, he too is being stabbed in the back, and the garden belongs to a cranky old man, fed up with kids talking about betrayal in his garden, and the dialogue between him and Cartman always cracks me up.
Fuck you! Get out of my garden!
I'll shit in your fucking garden.
Ending part 1 on a cliffhanger, Kenny has seemingly joined the PlayStation 4 side of the console war, and the CEO of Sony catches wind of the war itself and ups the stakes by creating the Black Friday bundle.
Called the Black Friday Bundle.
Therefore, this will hopefully outsell Microsoft and make the Xbox One seem less appealing. Each side plans to expand their armies and the mall security prepares for the inevitable battle, but one of their own is brutally killed. Again, this character is making reference to Game of Thrones, but one of the most absurd moments is the eye gag revealing that the scar is just a decal the guy was wearing on his face, and he passes it on to Randy, who then wears it in his honor, preparing for the next fight. Part 2 is a lot more overt with the parody titled A Song of Ass and Fire, and making changes to the show's intro, Kenny continues his fantasy role as the princess, and it's amusing to see him imitating Daenerys Targaryen, recapping the events of the last episode, and there's an uncertainty amongst the main characters and their chosen factions, and I like how unpredictable the loyalty is throughout, especially with Kyle. He considers joining Stan on the PlayStation 4 side of the war, which is interesting because you rarely see Stan and Kyle disagree on something to begin with, and it's even rarer to see Kyle and Cartman working together, where Cartman tries to talk him out of joining the other side. And raising the stakes even higher, the Black Friday discount increases to 90% off for the first few shoppers inside the shopping centre, and understandably, the security team are beside themselves. And following the loss of Old Cap, just like in real life, the shoppers are relentless, waiting outside like hordes of zombies. With Black Friday getting even closer, wanting to know how to handle the fight, Cartman needs some advice and inspiration, and he can only think of one person capable in yet another Garden of Betrayal scene, where he asks Butters and Scott Malkinson to visit the Game of Thrones creator himself, George R.R. Martin, and he wants to know what's coming next for the TV show, with it over-promising and under-delivering on the dragons and zombies, and it's amusing how the kids are so dedicated to the series dictating their next moves, which is ironic since the original show was forced to move away from the source material, with the books still unfinished. When they show up at George's home, they protest the show, with Butters outright saying he hates it, which really cracked me up. And it's brilliant how George will only entertain their questions because they aren't fans of the show, and he offers to share everything planned for the series but keeps getting distracted by the overly detailed descriptions of male nudity, and it even gets to a point where the TV show theme song is recreated with the word wiener. You will never hear the intro song the same way ever again.
Wiener, 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 wiener.
When Microsoft and Sony catch wind of the console war in South Park, I love how their first thought is to take advantage of the opportunity. And Bill Gates is reintroduced as an ally for Cartman getting his Xbox, which is ironic since he was brutally killed in the South Park movie, but cartoon logic obviously. It looks like the media is also only interested in exploiting the Black Friday carnage, and in a gross but hilarious twist, the brother-sister news team Tom and Tammy Thompson are blackmailed to show further interest in Black Friday when they are caught having relations. I suppose it wouldn't be a complete Game of Thrones parody without some incest, am I right? With Sony now losing and Microsoft getting a lot more support, it looks as though the Sony group is outnumbered, and Cartman makes an offer for peace which is rejected, but little does everyone realise, the media is once again looking to further influence the Black Friday bloodbath. With the news reporter sleeping with the Sony CEO, he reveals a secret weapon, not a euphemism. Visiting South Park, he makes Kenny into an anime princess, and I know Trey Parker has a fascination with Japanese culture, so it's no surprise he took advantage of this. And setting up part 3, George feels terrible for Butters and Scott, who increasingly become more frustrated by his wiener obsession, and so he decides to use his influence to help the Black Friday fights, pushing back the event by another week. And so the stakes are also set even higher at this point, with the discount increased to a whopping 96% off. Winter is indeed coming. Part 3 was my personal favourite of the episodes, Titties and Dragons, offering a satisfying conclusion to this hilarious take on Black Friday, and the CEO of Sony utilises Princess Kenny as a weapon who's winning the console war in favour of PlayStation 4, but nobody knows how he's doing this. Even Cartman is perplexed by this.
Because what? Because he's cute? Cartman, he's got everyone on Sony's side. We can't stop him!
With a shift in influence, it looks like Sony will beat the competition, and so Cartman orders his faction to surrender, but that seems too easy for Cartman. Of course, there's a lot more to this, with the theme of betrayal once again re-emerging, but this time, it's Kyle crossing everybody. He suggests the two factions should join forces under Sony and book a wedding at the Red Robin in the shopping centre. Again, more references, but even double crossers can be double crossed. Stan is made to look guilty for having a man on the inside, his father, when he didn't even know about Randy's security job. Cartman's goal is to drive Stan and Kyle further apart in order to get his Xbox, but Kyle crosses him at the wedding venue, and originally the Xbox players planned on locking the Sony players inside the Red Robin when they entered the shopping centre. I think it's funny how ultimately none of this matters in the end, because the fight is between Xbox and PlayStation, settled by their respective CEOs, only for Bill Gates to win. And the kids settle on buying Xbox Ones, where the Black Friday shoppers erupt in waves of violence, and beginning with brutally stabbing George R.R. Martin in the dick, is a complete bloodbath where everybody perishes, and I love the shots at the end, where the kids are casually walking amongst the bodies and debris with the somber Christmas music in the background. After buying the consoles, the kids have an unexpected realization that they can just play outside. They don't need to play video games in order to have fun, and so the entire trilogy becomes one big advertisement for the Stick of Truth video game. And if you've not played it before, I highly recommend it. Very funny South Park humour with satisfying turn-based combat. And overall, I feel these episodes have aged exceptionally well. Despite the console war not necessarily being as topical, the references to Game of Thrones are clever and well integrated into the story. I love seeing these characters take on the fantasy setting, and the commentary on consumerism and how Black Friday is a tool for driving the general public to make unnecessary purchases still feels relevant to me. It was great to revisit these episodes, and I'd highly recommend checking them out if you've not already done so. Generally speaking as well, I would say Season 17 is overall a pretty solid season. Of course, the standout episodes are the Black Friday trilogy, but for me, I love the Goth Kids episode. I think that's definitely one of the better ones on here, and I also really enjoy the Ginger Cow episode. That's definitely a highlight for sure. That's going to do it for this video looking at the South Park Black Friday trilogy. I hope you did enjoy. Please do leave me a like if you did. Let me know in the comments if you've ever experienced anything crazy around Black Friday. And for more videos, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, DVD Review Studios.
Are you threatening me?